In the past week, I was able to take a $25,000 payout from Topstep. In this video, I'm going to go over every single trade I took and every single move that I tried to catch in order to achieve this goal of a max payout from Topstep, which is $25,000. Before we get into that, here is a screenshot of my bank statement, and here's a screenshot of my payout approval. Now with that out of the way, let's start looking at the actual trades themselves. And before we get into the actual trades, I just want to give a little bit of context for these accounts. They are 50K express funded Topstep accounts, meaning they have $2,000 of drawdown with a max payout of $5,000 per account. And in order to pull out the $5,000, you have to have $10,000 of profit per account. This is because Topstep has a rule that you're only able to pull out half of your total profits, leaving the remaining funds to be traded with in the future. So with that being said, let's get into this first trade here. For a little bit of context, I like to risk approximately $1,000 per trade, meaning in the beginning here, we only have 2 full losses that we can take before our accounts are fully blown, but that is all taken into consideration. I'm fully willing to take on that much risk. When our goal is to create $10,000 from only $2,000 of drawdown, you have to be pretty risky with your trades, or you have to trade over a very long duration of time. But my goal was to hit $10,000 over 5 days, and that's actually what we were able to do. So all things being said, this is a pretty risky method here, but once you actually get your accounts off the ground, it becomes much easier to manage. So the risk is only really high in the first couple trades that you take, but once you build a big enough gap there, it obviously becomes significantly less risky to risk $1,000 per trade. But nonetheless, getting into this first trade here, this is pre-market right around 8:50 a.m. I don't mind trading a little bit before market open. I think market open usually just speeds up the price action. I don't think it necessarily changes where price action is going to go. I just think it gets it there in a faster period of time, basically. So again, don't mind trading a little bit prior to open, and that's what I was doing here, seeing if I could hop on this uptrend and actually catch the move to this prior high. And going along with this, I don't actually have a dollar amount I'm looking to profit per trade. My take profits are based solely on market structure and prior highs and lows. So there's no monetary amount I'm trying to hit. It's purely based on previous price action. So here we have the framework for the very first trade I took on these accounts. I'm risking approximately $1,000. I have my stop loss placed right below this prior low here, and then I'm looking to obviously hit this prior high that we had just talked about, and the reward for that is right around $3,300. So for all of the trades that I took on this first week with this account, I was trading 2 contracts of NQ, so that's what we're doing here, and we are going to see how this trade ended up playing out. Not off to a great start, immediately in the negative, chopping around a little bit at break even, and then a huge swing to the downside, and we are fully out of $1,000 before market even opened on the very first trading day for all 5 of my accounts. We actually end up losing half of our total drawdown within 10 minutes of taking our first trade on all 5 of these accounts. We're off to a pretty rough start, but there is still plenty of time to make a comeback. So after that first trade and losing half of my drawdown immediately after my first attempt, I decided to take a step back, let market open happen, and actually try and see if I could figure out where the market was trying to head to in the future. So after market open, there was a huge sell-off, so I had the idea of shorting on my mind. I decided once I found a little bit of pullback, that is when I was going to try to enter in another short with this prior low as my goal for the day. So with that being said, I framed up this next trade, ready to risk my entire account on a potential $5,500 profit. So let's see how this one ended up playing out. You can see here an immediately huge sell-off. At this point, I would have moved to break even, but it is going to be completely irrelevant for this trade because it was a huge sell-off. It completely blew past my take profit. And then at this point for the day, we were up very big. As the day went on, it continued to sell off even more. And at this point, the NASDAQ was down over 500 points. So I assumed at this point that we had knocked off all the prior liquidity and stop losses. So once this low had been taken out, I started looking for longs again. So this was the framing for the next long that I tried to take. And let's see how this ended up playing out. And as you can see, within 3 candles, we were instantly stopped out for a full loss, but we were not done trading for the day just yet. So now just a couple minutes later, I ended up seeing another setup that was potentially showing bullish for the day. And that was once this prior high had been taken out, I had my sights set on this previous high for the next goal. So I entered in this trade here, and we're going to see how this one played out. It started out really good in my favor, almost hit my goal, and ended up being a full loss and what looked like the continuation of a downtrend. And then just as a punch in the face, it did end up hitting my profit goal later on in the day, and I got chopped up in a couple other just bad short little trades that really didn't ever get off the ground or have any significant movement. It was just small loss, small loss, small loss. So our profits were down from approximately $4,200 down to about $1,500, and then at that point I decided to call it a day. Moving on to the next day, you can see we're in a very significant downtrend. So I was looking at getting into shorts at this point. It's also right around 9 a.m. So that 9:30 volatility from the New York Stock Exchange Open is going to be happening. So I was looking to use that as what is going to start the momentum for my trade here. As you can see, I used this prior high as my stop loss, and it happened to be right around $1,000. So it worked out really good here. And then for my take profit, we're gonna have to zoom out for me to find the actual take profit point. I was using this prior low right here as my take profit. It's on a good even number, which the stock market loves, right at 25,000. And the reason why I didn't go down here to the 24,936 was because there had already been such a huge sell-off that honestly, I was pretty skeptical if the market was going to be able to make that big of a move. But nonetheless, we did enter a short right here. So let's see how this one ended up playing out. As you can see, off to a really good start. And once a trade gets into the profits this big, right around $1,000, I would be moving to break even. And our break even almost got hit at this point. And then as you can see, that market open went perfect for us. Huge volatility, extreme downtrend, and that prior low that I was talking about earlier does end up getting taken out here just shortly after. So it turns out that that would have been the play. That would have been a $7,000 trade if I had my take profit way down there, but I didn't. I took the safe route and only ended up being up right around $5,000 on this trade. Nonetheless, I'm happy with any profit that we can get. Moving on to the next trade that I tried this day, and this was a little bit later, right around 10:15 a.m. after market open. I saw that it appeared that we were continuing the prior downtrend, so I was looking at getting into another short right here after we saw a little bit of pullback. So my stop loss was at this prior high right here, and then my take profit was just at the daily low that we had created right here. I only needed $4,000 to reach my $10,000 profit goal, so that lined up pretty well, as this trade would be a $4,500 trade all said and done. So let's see how this one played out. And we were instantly stopped out for a full loss, but it's okay because we're still up pretty big on the day. For the next trade I took basically immediately after, I did switch up and start looking for longs, as we had taken out this prior high and then it looked like we were starting to trend upwards a little bit. So we got in this long right here, and let's see how this one played out. And as you can see, that one also immediately stopped us out for another loss of $1,000 on the day. So at that point, I decided to give up and call it a day. Okay, so moving on to Monday of the next week, you can see we entered a very large uptrend right here, and I was looking to hop in a long for the continuation of that uptrend. This is around 8:45 prior to market open. Set my stop loss right at this low right here, which ended up being right around $1,000 again, and then my take profit, we're gonna have to zoom out a little bit to find this. My take profit is at this prior high right here. It looks a little bit better on the 5-minute chart. So this prior high right here, this green wick, this is my profit goal for the day, and it's right around $5,500 all said and done. So we're gonna enter in this trade and see how everything played out. Off to a little bit of a rough start, but it's okay. I'm fine with taking a little bit of drawdown in these trades. Again, back into the negatives. This is the kind of chop that you'll see prior to market open. It doesn't always like to pick a direction, but as we get closer to 9:30, that's when the volatility really starts to kick up and you'll actually see some bigger moves being made. All right, and there's the 9:30 open, and we're now up right around $1,300. So at this point, I would move the trade to break even. And we're gonna let this thing run, and as you can see, it's up right around $4,000. And then at this point, I actually ended up moving my take profit up to right around $2,700 right here at this prior low that we had created, just to narrow down the trade and lock in profits. Again, at this point, I'm very close to my goal of $10,000, so I'd hate to see this trade end up break even after we're so close to our profit goal. So at this point, I got a little bit scared and decided to lock in half of my profit. And as you can see, that ended up getting hit. So at that point, I was stopped out for a $2,700 gain, and this left each of my accounts up approximately $7,500. So now moving on to 11:17 a.m., just a couple hours after market open, you can see that all of the gains that we had made had been lost, and then there was a little bit of chop around here. I thought that potentially we had hit a reversal point. So at this point, I was looking for another long, and along with this, we still have not hit our prior high. That was our goal for the day. So I thought that this was definitely a possibility. So let's hop in this trade and see how that played out. And as you can see there, we chopped around for a little bit and then basically were instantly stopped out, never really being in the profits ever for this trade. So this was basically just an immediate loss of $1,000 down to $6,400 on this account now. So once our long attempt had failed, I figured that we were going to continue with the downtrend that we had started from earlier in the morning. So I set my stop loss at this prior high right here and my take profit at this prior low right here, risking $1,000 to potentially win $2,200. So let's see how this trade ended up. And as you can see, just a couple minutes later, it was a full profit, basically instant profit. So that was a huge move for our account at $8,700 halfway through the trading day. Now moving on to right around 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon, you can see that our daily goal had been hit. And then we took a little bit of a retracement, but the overall trend is still continuing upwards. So I saw that we had hit this prior high and that we were continuing the move upwards. So I tried to make one last attempt before the market closed at taking a long and hitting our goal of $10,000. So for this trade, I set my stop loss right around this low right here, and our take profit. At this point, there was no prior high that was anywhere near this setup. And along with this, we were only around $1,500 away from our goal. So I just set my take profit at right around $1,800 just to hit that $10,000 mark and give us a little bit extra room to work with, because we really didn't have any structure anywhere near us. And it was coming towards the end of the trading day also. So catching a huge move really wasn't realistic. So we were just going for a monetary number that would hit our goal for the day. All right, so let's enter this trade and see how this played out. And you can see just a couple minutes later, we hit full profit and it left our 5 accounts at each of them up right around $10,500. So now moving on to the next day, this is where something a little bit interesting starts to happen, because we are already at our $10,000 profit goal, meaning we are able to take a max payout from Topstep of $5,000. The only thing we have left to do is acquire 5 trading days of $150 profit or more. So we already have 3 of them down. So we need 2 more days of at least $150 profit. So we're going to change up our trading strategy very drastically as of right now, and our new profit goal is going to be $160, just so we have that $150 profit after fees and after a potential bad fill. And we're going to be risking $500 per trade. This gives us a ton of wiggle room in drawdown in order to reach that $160 goal. So for the first trade that we took on Tuesday, this is going to be 920 pre-market, and this is just going to be a long due to the current uptrend that we are in with this prior high so close to it. I figured that we would take out this prior high before dropping down significantly lower. So let's take this and see how this worked out. And as you can see, just 2 minutes after I took the trade, we were at $150 profit. So now at this point, we just need one more day of $150 profit in order to take our full $25,000 payout from Topstep. So another important thing to consider here, the way that Topstep works is every day at 5 p.m. the markets close for an hour of maintenance, and then at 6 p.m. the markets reopen, and that is what starts the next trading day. So even though it's technically the same day, 6 p.m. starts the beginning of Wednesday in this case. So for this trade, it's technically still Tuesday, but this counts as trading towards Wednesday. So what's really nice is that I was able to, in the same day, take 2 different days worth of trades and then actually pull out my $25,000 all in that same day. So I got my trading done for Wednesday and pulled the money out while it was still Tuesday. So that was really cool. But let's get into this trade here. So as you can see, we're entering a little bit of an uptrend. There's a lot of prior highs that we have not taken out. So again, just going with the trend, I think that it is going to hit these prior highs before it ends up getting anywhere near our stop loss of negative $500. So let's enter this trade and see how this thing played out. And again, you can see in the first 2 minutes of trading, we hit our full profit. This leaves our account at right around $11,000 profit. And at this point, we are able to pull out a full $25,000 payout, $5,000 per account, half of the $10,000 profit that each account had. So those were all of the trades that I took in my first 5 trading days on these Topstep accounts. And at the time of recording this video, I'm ready to take another payout from Topstep. So hopefully there are many more of these weekly recap videos to come in the future.